Hello and welcome to the Center Stage 1 podcast at the historic Bay Street Theater in downtown Eustis. I'm your host, Jon Nettles. This podcast is your sneak peek into the lives of the creative people here in Central Florida. Today we have with us guitarist, composer, audio engineer, producer, basically anything that has to do with music. You got your hand in. Dennis Haklar. So welcome, Dennis.
Thank you, John.
Leading up to this interview, I had the pleasure of listening to all three of your albums that you had listed on your website there. And I always find it incredibly impressive the way that people, and I heard it in your music too, are able to tell a story without really using words and just hearing it with the music and bringing people on that journey with those instruments. So I want to hear about the beginning of your journey. Can you kind of walk me through the very first time that you remember, hey, this music thing, I kind of like this?
Yeah, that would be back when I was at Rutgers University. I was in this program which had a studio in the back of the music and film lab, and I was interfacing a lot with the film majors, and they were always looking for music. And at the time, they were doing a lot of avant-garde type of productions, so it fit right in with what I was, experimenting with tape loops, and they had a big ARP 2600 synthesizer in there, so I would be programming that thing and coming out with all the cool squeaks and pops that would produce. And then I took I had borrowed a 612 from my friend. It was a 12 string on the top and 6 string on the bottom, the same one that is in The Song Remains the Same by Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page used this thing. So I took this thing and I took the 12 string part of it and I put it into a tape loop and I let it circle around and come up with this really ethereal type of texture. And then I would layer it with the 2600 underneath it and other sounds as well. And I would present it to the film guys, and they were all over it. They're like, yeah, we got to have that. So we were working very close together. And then after that, I was like, that's really cool. I don't want to stop. When I graduated, I didn't have access to that kind of equipment anymore, obviously. So, I mean, because we're talking about really expensive equipment, those synthesizers were the size of this wall. Then I got into a place called Pyramid Recording Studio, and I started off as a intern there, and I worked my way up, eventually becoming an assistant engineer, then engineer, and then I worked my way all the way up to doing full-blown productions, finding myself working with people like Gloria Gaynor, Kool and the Gang, as well as a bunch of projects that had evolved into bigger things.
So you're starting to work with people with names like this after you only started to get into music when you were in college.
Yeah. So college was the starting point, like the leaping point. And then from there, I knew in order to continue this journey, I would have to, put myself into a situation where I would be surrounded by amazing equipment. Because, of course, even back then, it was untouchable. You can't afford that equipment. Yeah. Nowadays, you have access to, digital types of recording, which make it more affordable. You can pick up a Volt 2 for like under $200 and hook it into your, Apple system, and away you go with plugins. But I'll tell you what, people, it's not the same as the real thing, which is analog equipment, real instruments, real vocals, real percussions, real instruments. There's just nothing like it. Yeah. Unless you come from that world, you don't know any better. And you think that the plugins are as good because what do you know? Like you don't know what that real thing is like. So anyway, but
So,
enough of that.
I know you mentioned like recording everything at Rutgers, like the ethereal, like feeling and
Yeah.
everything to your music. Is that kind of how you transitioned into? I know you've described your music as kind of like jazz fusion. Like, to talk about that.
Yeah, so around the same time, I was studying with a jazz guitarist by the name of Harry Leahy. He's no longer with us, but back during that time period, I was really focused on, eating up everything that I could possibly learn about guitar and music theory and things that I didn't have access to. Because back in those days, we didn't have just like click the button and here's all this information coming at you. Back in those days, you had to look for it. So again, I surrounded myself with players that were of top caliber. I mean, he's like worked with Billy Joel session players, and like so these are like top cats in the industry, and he would really throw things at me in the course of one lesson that would take me a month to digest. But it didn't take me a month because I would practice for like 8 hours plus a day
Yeah.
to the point where my parents thought I was insane. They would like, what's wrong with this kid? We got to get him some help because like he's in the basement all day long. Like, what's going on?
You said it's not a phase, mom.
Yeah, it's just, I was drilling, I was like trying to like learn all these configurations and
Yeah.
inversions and all these different things that you had to go through in
So
order to understand the vocabulary of jazz.
yeah. So you got into the music game late, but once you did, it was just
Yeah, yeah, then it was head on.
okay. Did you have any artists that you were inspired by or looked up to, or anything that you didn't work with?
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the artists that I admire, probably like we were talking about earlier, like putting on a pedestal, but I don't want to use that word because I don't like that.
Mm,
Um, an artist that I really admire is Pat Metheny,
mm,
so when he plays, it's just like he transcends you into another universe. It's just like when you hear him play, you're no longer in a theater. You are somewhere else.
mm.
That's
Yeah.
and I admire that so much that I'm trying to take that and learn from it and say, wow, you're not really talking with your instrument until you can really not only put yourself there, but bring other people with you to that place that you're trying to be at.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say it's cool hearing that because listening to my personal favorite of the three albums
yeah,
was "To the Universe" that you worked on with
yeah,
Steffi Moon Lady,
yeah,
and it listening to that and hearing you say that, like, it that very much fits. You can absolutely hear that, being
yeah,
taken to a different place
yeah.
with that music. So
Thanks, I
it's
appreciate that.
it's
Yeah.
showing.
So Steffi and I, we worked together since Pyramid Recording,
Mm,
and what I do is I would take her vocals, and like I said in the earlier days, where I would do those things to the guitar. Well, I took that same kind of concept and I applied it to the human voice. And
mm,
I would texture it, and she has a beautiful voice to begin with,
yeah,
but when you do those processing type of things to it, it kind of like creates this otherworldly instrument
yeah,
almost, and you're not even sure if that's a vocal or not.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's awesome.
that's cool. Yeah.
So since this podcast is about the people here in Central Florida, the creative people, kind of a sneak peek into their lives, talk to me about how you got to Central Florida.
So there was a point when my father had passed away from cancer that I kind of took a good hard look at that, and I was like, well, he was not that old when he died. So I kind of thought about that, and I'm like, well, man, how much time do I have left? I mean, I was exposed to way more chemicals than he was because he comes from Europe where they're clean. I come from America where we're not clean. You know, so basically, it made me think about with the time I have left, what am I gonna do with it? So I packed up my family. We moved down here to Florida, and I figured that down here there's more of a um, open-mindedness to performing arts than
Mm-hmm.
there is up in New Jersey where I'm from. Over there, it's kind of like there's a lot of musical activity, but only for those that are already heavily established, like the Bruce Springsteens, the Billy Joels, all the top guys.
I'd say they're pretty established.
They fill the places there.
Yeah.
For young, well, not young, but for artists that have not made their name yet, that's not the okay. Well, for me, it was not the place to be. I
Hmm.
figured that my chances are better coming down to Florida.
Yeah.
Not to say that New Jersey is a bad place for artists to develop, which obviously it is. But for me, I found that it was better to come to Florida.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your
No, it
question.
does. And then speaking of artists who haven't quite found their footing yet, haven't quite made it, I always love to ask people who are doing this for a living, anyone who is wanting to play music for a living, what is your one piece of advice that you'd give to them?
Oh, to stay true to your vision and don't let other people distract you from what you are trying to say and what you're trying to do. As long as you are fulfilling your need, your quest to develop your art form, that's payment in enough in itself.
Mm,
Fame and all that other stuff that's secondary to what you're really trying to do. I mean, it's empty if you're not saying what you want to say.
yeah, I love that. All right. Well, Dennis, where can people find your music and find out about the different shows that you're doing coming up?
Okay, so I have a website called DennisHaklar.com, which lists my shows coming up, and it also has links to where you can find my music. But my music is easily found on Spotify and on iTunes. And this is an album that I have. It's called Lizard's Tale, and I have two other albums on there. One is called Transcendence, and then I have another one with Steffi Moonlady called To the Universe. And I'm currently working on other projects that should be coming out in 2026 or 27. Yeah, I'm really into this new thing now called immersive audio, which is 7.4.1 surround. So my mixing now is going to be like, you have three in the front, you have two on the side, two behind you, and then you have four overhead, and then you got the bass, the overall bass. So you could move sound in three dimensions. Yeah. So I'm taking, what we talked about
Yeah.
earlier, except it's in 7D.
Yeah. It's kind of
7.1D.
taking it up
It's
another
not it's
level.
not 3D, it's
Yeah.
7D.
Or four
Yeah,
levels.
it's really wild.
All right. Well, Dennis, it's been a pleasure. We are now going to have, I know you have your guitar here, which
Yeah,
is, as a guitarist, is exciting for me to get
cool.
to watch you play. So, what are you going to be playing for us today?
I'm gonna be playing the title track from my album. It's called Lizard's Tale.
All right. Perfect. Well, this has been the Center Stage One podcast with our new friend here, Dennis Haklar. Once again, I'm your host, Jon Nettles. We're going to listen to Dennis play now, but after that, we will see you next time.